I'd like to welcome y'all back to another episode of Beyond the Fear podcast, the place where y'all come for motivation, inspiration, uplifting, and an overall positive message. I'm your host, DJ. And earlier I read a post that said, "You're not stuck, you're just afraid to move. Do it anyways." And that reminded me of a conversation that I had with a few of my friends, but it was a powerful message because I know I've talked about it on here a lot of times about how my fear of the unknown or my fear of trying something new kept me in my comfort zone. And what I realized is that I'm not the only one who's dealt with that. That there are plenty of people out there who've convinced themselves that they can't do this or they don't have the knowledge or the time or whatever to do that. And it's just all excuses because we've convinced ourselves that we can't do it because we keep, telling ourselves all these negative things about how we don't have the time or we don't have the energy or whatever the case may be, but we can have the time for other things. We can have the energy for other things, but not when it comes to things that we've already convinced ourselves we can't do or that we can't achieve. Because I was talking to a few friends, and man, it was the same thing. Even with me in the podcast, I would naturally just go to, oh, I don't promote it enough. I don't do this, and it's just like, but I absolutely could if I cared about it the way I say I do. I could promote it a lot more if I cared. Um, you know, if I wanted it as bad as I do, because it's not that I don't want it, it's just something, and I know that it's probably just the fear of failing and the fear of putting all this energy into it and it not being successful. That's also kind of got a little bit of a hold on me. I'm not going to sit here and lie, but you know that because even I'm not gonna lie, even filming this episode is just kind of I've been in this space lately where I haven't really been wanting to do much of anything, and I've been in this space for a couple of weeks. But I read that post and it was just like, man, I got to talk about this because this is something. It just gave me like this jolt of, yeah, that's real. You know what I'm saying? We'll sit here and tell ourselves why we can't do this, why we can't do that, and it's just we're making excuses because we've gotten comfortable. It was just like a video I seen on TikTok, and I don't remember the lady's name, but she was like, "Your fear keeps you in that comfort zone," and it's like, man, that was the whole premise of my podcast was just trying to get past that fear, and it's like it's not an easy thing to do, especially if you've lived within that fear most of your life and you've allowed that fear to orchestrate your life. Most of your life, it's hard to get away from it. You don't just flip that switch. That's just like when I be talking to my mom about stuff and she will say something like, you got to give it to God, and trust that God got you. And it's not that I don't want to do that, but it's hard when you haven't been given, when you've spent most of your life not giving everything to God, trying to figure everything out, trying to find out, how I can get myself out of this hole that I put myself in, so now to just say, hey, okay, God, I'm gonna give it to you. And, now it's no longer on my mind. I no longer think about it. That's just not how my mind works. But then she showed me a video and it was a woman saying, hey, give it to God every single day, that you need to give it to him for until you are able to not stress about it, not think about it, until you're able to trust what he does. Like, you don't do it just once and then let it go. Keep giving it to him every single day that you wake up and that you do your prayer. You pray for, stronger faith, and you just give it to him every single day. And you let him know, hey, I'm giving it to you again. I'm giving it to you again until you get to that point. And I'm like, okay, now that's something I can now that's a plan I can get behind, because again, just going from not doing that to doing it, and you think that it's going to be that transition is going to be that easy. It's not. For some people, now for some people it may be, but for others it's not. It takes time. They need to be able to, they got to build that faith, they got to build that understanding, and so a little bit at a time. So that's just kind of where I've been, lately, just trying to deal with so much stuff, that I'm dealing with, that I've pushed, the podcast and everything excuse me, everything like that on the back burner and just making excuse after excuse. But when I saw that post this morning, I'm like, man, yeah, I got to talk about it because, like I said, a few of my friends, we had a similar conversation just about things that we want to do, and it was just like we were all just making excuses. And when I brought it up, like, oh man, we just sitting here making excuses. Of course, there were some people who were defensive and offended, but it was like, but am I lying? That was the main thing that I was trying to get them to understand. Like, yeah, it may hurt, it may upset you that I'm saying these things, but am I lying? When we really sit down and we really think about it, when you say, hey, I don't have time to do that, okay, what does your day look like? If we really break it down, what does your day look like? You may go to work, come home, spend time with the family, and then they'll say something like, then if it's Thursday or on a Sunday or Saturday, I watch a few games, and then it's like, okay, a few games. I know one game can last like 3 hours. So if you're watching a few games, you're talking about 6 hours. So in those 6 hours, you can't put no time towards your goal, towards what you're trying to do. For the friends who, go out, however long that you out, you can't spend some of that time putting towards planning whatever your goal, whatever your dream, whatever it is. And so when we got past the emotions and the frustration, it was just kind of like, you know what, that's fair. And mind you, I'm not judging because I'm in the same boat. You know what I'm saying? I don't do nothing. Gym, work, home. That's really my cycle. And so there really is no excuse for me because I have plenty of time to be reaching out to people to do collabs and and stuff like that. But it's just that fear, like, I'm not gonna call it anything else, that fear of failure, or that fear of the no, or that fear of whatever, that's that's keeping me from doing it, or that's keeping me, making these excuses why it won't work, or why it can't be successful, or whatever the case may be. It's just, and I started to listen to that voice because it's so easy to just be like, yeah, you're right. Why even do it? You know what I'm saying? It's so easy to do that as compared to, even though this might be right, I'm still going to do it anyway. You know what I'm saying? And if it doesn't work, I'm going to try something else, and I'm going to try something else. Or it does work, and now it's even more things that I got to do because now I have more responsibilities. And now because I've added this collab, or I brought somebody else into the operation, now I got somebody depending on me. And now I have to, even on the days when I don't want to do it, or don't have the drive, or whatever the case may be, I still got to do it. And that was one of the things that helped me in the gym, was having that trainer, because now I have somebody. It's not just me getting up on my own going to the gym. It's somebody else taking the time out of their day saying, hey, we're going to do this at 7 o'clock. So, be here at 7 and we'll start the session. And now I have to be accountable for someone else's time, for someone else taking time out of their day to fit me into their schedule, and that helped me. So even on days when I probably, if I was on my own, I probably wouldn't have went. I went because it wasn't just me. It wasn't about just me. It was me and my trainer, who's taking time out of her day and out of her schedule, and time that she could probably be with other clients to, to take care of me and to train me and to help mold me and help me develop better habits and things like that. So, you know, there were times when that alone motivated me to get out of my bed and to go to the gym, So it's just a lot of things that, that go into, you breaking out of that shell of that fear of trying to stay in your comfort zone, because you understand what your comfort zone is. And even though your comfort zone may be an uncomfortable place, it may be a bad place, it may be uh, a tight place, a ceiling, you know what to expect. And so there's no fear of the unexpected in your comfort zone. There's no fear of that big drop off that may be there. There's also no fun, no expectations, no fun of that higher ceiling. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, because you don't have to worry about the floor, going down, the price that you pay for that comfort is your ceiling stays where it is. And a lot of us, we get stuck in that, and myself included. I've been stuck in that. I thought that I was out of it. And mind you, I got out of one comfort zone just to put myself in another. And I have to now learn how to get out of this comfort zone, and and move on to the next, and then so on and so forth. But yeah, man. So I don't know, these past couple of weeks have kind of just made me realize that I've just left one. Outgrown one comfort zone, and I've settled into another, and now I have to do the work that I need to do to get out of this comfort zone, and move on to whatever the next stage is in my life. But and I got to stop making these excuses, because that's all it is. And I've listened to people. I know one woman who wants to get back into podcasting, or get back into doing prank videos, or whatever she was doing. And it's just, every time I talk to her, it's the same thing. Like, I just don't have time, or I don't have the motivation, I don't have the inspiration, I don't have this, I don't have that. And it's just like, there's a part of me who understands, because that part of me tells myself the same thing. So it's like, okay, there's someone gets it. But then there's the part of me that's like, man, that's just an excuse. Because true, it may be true that you don't have an idea for a prank, but as far as getting on here and doing a podcast, or getting on here and talking about, you got plenty of stuff going on in your life. And I know that at the time she had plenty of stuff going on in her life, that she could talk about, stuff that she's overcome, that she could talk about to help motivate somebody, anybody who may be going through something similar. But when we get into those routines, and when we get into those parts of our lives, those comfort zones, when we start to form a new comfort zone, is it's so hard to break those walls down and break those barriers down, because you get so comfortable. That's just like, it's no different than, you find that bed, right, that mattress, and it feels so good, and the pillow feels so good, the covers feel so good, the temperature of the room is just right, and it's like everything is working against you getting out of bed. So you have no motivation, because everything feels good. You may have your music going, whatever it is, everything that makes you say, hey, I need to stay in this bed. It's going to be even harder to get out, to fight to get out of that bed, to fight to pull that covers off, to get up from that pillow, to get off that mattress, and to get your day started. That's how the comfort zone works, because you've, over the years or over the months, whatever it is, because you may have gotten out of one comfort zone and started to settle into another. You've developed everything around your life to make your comfort zone just that more comfortable, and now you need something to shake you out of it. And one of those things is realizing that you're even in a comfort zone, because it happens so naturally that you don't even realize that you're in it. And man, and getting out of it is hard, because we tell ourselves all types of stuff. We have all types of mental gymnastics with ourselves to try to convince ourselves that we're not in a bad space, or that these things that I'm talking about are legit. The reasons why I can't do this are so legit that you just don't understand. You don't understand my life. You don't understand what I'm going through, and which is true. But I also can tell by a conversation again, because like, we just going back to the conversation I was having with my friends. We also say things that make us say, well, hold on, you just told me you ain't had no time, but you can go do this. Like I said, you can go to the club, or you can go you can be watching the games and stuff like that, or you can just be scrolling all through social media, stuff like that. Even the time that we're spending together just sitting here talking, we could all be brainstorming about things that we could be doing. We can all be we can all be inspiring each other and helping each other get to our goals. But instead, and again, understandable because I'm not judging, we're sitting here making excuses for ourselves instead of owning, like, yeah, I'm being lazy, or yeah, I just don't have the drive, I don't have the fight, I don't have the discipline to do that. That's not really what my focus is, my comfort. You know what I'm saying? And that's a hard thing to do because then that makes you feel bad. That makes you feel less than. That makes you feel like you're a bad person because you do have people who are fighting for their dreams, who are fighting for their goals, who are pushing and clawing, gnawing, and everything like that to get to where they want to be and to live their dreams. And here you are, able bodied, could be doing it, but you just don't care enough, or you don't have, or you letting that fear of failure, or that fear of putting your all into this and it not working out, you're letting that control you. And you don't want, nobody wants to say that. Nobody wants to admit, yeah, I'm the one being lazy, or yeah, I'm the one not caring enough, or whatever the case may be. But the truth is, people always say the first step to fixing your problem is admitting that you have a problem. So you have to own that. That's why I have no problem getting on here. Well, let me not say I have no problem, because even for me, it takes time for me to recognize it. But the moment that I recognize it, it's like, yeah, because if you would have asked me this maybe 3 weeks ago, I probably wouldn't have been like, nah, I'm not in no comfort zone, because I would have told you about how I used to be, or some of the things that I used to do that I no longer do. But what I failed to realize is, yes, I'm out of that comfort zone. And yes, now I've moved and started to make myself a whole nother comfort zone. But once I realized that, I can say, yeah, I've left one, moved on, and made another, and I can be honest about that. Now it's up to me to now start doing the work to fight out of this position that I've put myself in, which I know from history, from my past, that it isn't going to be the easiest thing, but it is doable. It is, you can make that happen, you can. So I know for me, that starts with, just building my courage up to send out a DM to be like, hey, let's do this, let's collab on this, or hey, whatever the case may be, just to start doing something to get myself out of my comfort zone. And I know I was talking to my therapist, and she was just like, you know, just one message, one email, one DM. That's all it takes. It's just one. That was my goal, was just to find somebody who, does what I do and is clear, that's close to where I am, and just send that DM, send that message, ask him, hey, let's collab, let's do something, whatever the case may be, and to do better with being consistent, especially with like my short films or my short videos and things like that, staying more consistent with that and helping to build my brand and build my community, and stuff like that. So those are things that I know that I need to work on, and steps that I need to take to get to where I want to be. And I got to get past that fear of hearing the no, or that fear of rejection, or that fear of um failing, just putting your all into something and still failing, or, not getting to where you want to be, because it isn't failing until you give up. And I know that there'll be a part of me that wants to give up, but I know that I can't. If I believe in myself and I believe in what I want, I have to keep pushing past that. But I have to get to the point to where I'm really willing to give it a real chance, a real try of trying to push this thing past, trying to really push this thing and get it started, and not letting these excuses, because that's what they are. At least for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, they're excuses. I can't let the excuses stop me before I've even started. And that's what's been happening, before I've ever even given myself a real chance to succeed. I've allowed the excuses of, or my thoughts of why things are going to fail, I've allowed them to win before I've even given myself the chance to try, and even if I've tried things like years later and I've succeeded, it's like, man, I could have been doing this, da 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 da. And then even that thought, kind of messes me up because now it's like I'm bummed out because now I realize, okay, I could have been doing this for years instead of being happy that I did it. I'm successful at it. I was successful at it. And I can keep going and I can start my journey. I'm mad because my journey could have started 6 years ago. And now I've put myself into a whole nother um pit. Now I've just dug a hole for myself because instead of celebrating the fact that, hey, I tried something, didn't know that if it was going to succeed or not, and I've succeeded and just moving forward. Now I'm thinking about the 5, 6 years of just things that I didn't do. And now I put myself into just a whole nother hole when I should be celebrating and looking forward. I'm stuck just looking at the past about things that I can't change. And so, yeah, it's a lot of things that I used to do that even in success, I still was setting myself up for failure. Even when I did something right, I still found a way to find something negative in every positive thing that I had. And so now I'm working to now do the opposite. So even when something negative happens, I try to find something positive in that negative because that's the exact opposite of what I used to do. And I know how strong of a hold that used to have on me, even when I'm having success. I'm still only focusing on the failures or what I didn't do or what I didn't have or the decisions that I didn't make, whatever the case may be. Whereas now when I go through a decision and I decide something and it could have a negative impact, I try to focus on the positives, the things that I can take from it and I can use and apply into my daily life. So, there is change. I do see change, but it's not, but there are still bad habits there. And one thing that I've learned is I don't need to kick myself, because because I still have bad habits. I can give myself, it's okay to give yourself grace. It's okay to understand, hey, I do have this bad habit. But I don't have to destroy myself because I have a bad habit. I need to learn how to fix this bad habit. I need to learn how to turn this bad habit into a positive habit, into a good habit instead of sitting here kicking myself about the bad habit and not moving anywhere. Because when we do that, when we don't give ourselves grace and we don't give ourselves understanding, we stay stuck because all we want to focus on is the bad habit. We don't want to focus on the success that we just had. All we want to focus on is, well, for me, for example, I don't want to focus on the success. I just want to focus on the fact that even while I'm doing something good, my mind just instantly goes to negative. And now I'm just stuck in this negative place instead of saying, hey, my mind did go there, but I caught myself. Let me stop thinking about that and let me think about the success that I just had. Let me think about moving forward. Let me think about how I can build off of this success, how I can start to use this success as a stepping stone to get to where I want to be. So that's where I try to be now as I try to catch myself. So now that I've caught myself, putting myself into another comfort zone, now I got to start doing the work to claw out of this comfort zone and to move forward and to get out of this space that I've been in, this mental space that I've been in, where I've now just kind of gotten stuck, because I've just been so comfortable and life has been so good that I kind of got complacent and I allow myself to get stuck again without even noticing. But now I see it, and now I have to start doing the work that I need to do to get out of that. And one of the steps is making this video, just even though, again, because like I said before, I looked at that post, and now mind you, I went looking for a post. I went looking for something. I was on Pinterest just kind of looking, trying to see, well, can I draw some inspiration? Can I find something that'll get me motivated to want to do the post? And as soon as I open in Pinterest, literally the first post on Pinterest, because I don't know other people's Pinterest setup, but they're side by side all the way down. So literally the first post on Pinterest was, you're not stuck, you're just afraid to move, do it anyways. And it was just like, yeah, that reading that post lit a fire under me. And here I am making this video because I was just in a space where I did not want to, record. But I realized that I am in that space, and I went intentionally looking for something to help motivate me to talk about something. And literally, like I said, the first thing on the on Pinterest was that, and it's just like, yeah, you know what? That's real. All I'm doing is making excuses because I'm scared, because of the fear, because I've been doing this for 2 years and I haven't really gone anywhere. But that's not true. Even though I may have not gone where I want to go in my head, but I've still started to get a following. I've started to talk to people on TikTok. Is just also a part of me. There's a part of me that's like, I'm not very trusting. So I haven't leaned into, really fully embracing the people who've talked to me and the people who've tried to do stuff with me. So again, putting myself, setting myself back, holding myself back because of the fear, because of, you know, the past and things like that. And I'm slowly learning to let that go. And I needed this video to kind of to see some things about myself. So in real time, I'm catching things as well. So hopefully, a month from now, I'm not in this same, or even if it's just 2 weeks from now, I'm not in the same place, and I've started to respond differently to people who reach out to me, and and I'm doing a better job of it. But the intention, you gotta be intentional with it. And so I say all that to say, when I got on TikTok, it was with the intention to try to get motivated, to try to find something, to inspire this episode. And literally, like I said, the first thing, and then it's like, oh man, I remember when I had that conversation with these guys, and we had like a similar conversation of just, we want to do things, but we make all these excuses. I don't have time. I don't have this. There's, just all types of stuff. And it's just like, those are just excuses. And most of the time that's just fear talking, because, we know how good that comfort zone feels. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, we don't mind about our permanent ceiling. It's just the comfort of knowing that the floor won't drop. And that alone, the comfort of just knowing that, hey, this, we know in our comfort zone of us just going to work, and that's all we're going to do is we're going to work. We know that our floor is going to be here. And yes, that may be annoying, but we know that we don't have to worry about our flow going any lower than that. And we're okay with our ceiling not going any higher, because in our comfort zone, we just always looking down. We're looking at that floor. We want to make sure that our bad days are never lower than this. So we're so busy looking at the floor that we don't even have time to even consider the fact that our ceiling doesn't get any higher either, because we don't worry about the ceiling getting any higher. We just want to make sure that floor, our bad days, don't get any lower than this. And so it's just, so that's why it's so easy to get caught up in that comfort zone, because you're just making sure that floor doesn't drop any lower than what I'm saying, that you're not even worrying about the ceiling. But you know and we were just, and I mean, and I was talking to them about that, and I could tell that some of them were listening, because they started to get that look in their eyes like, man, you know what, that's real. I've wanted to quit my job, but I've been so scared because I don't know where this is going to happen. I don't know where, my next job going to come from, or, I've been wanting to do this, or I've been wanting to do that. And it's just, man, what's the whole saying, dance with the devil, it's so easy to get in that mindset, because you know what that looks like. If you're going to have a bad day, about the range of your bad day. You know what I'm saying? Where it is. And so that's what we care about. You know what I'm saying? We're not chasing the highs like some other people who want that dream, who have that aspiration. They want to chase that next thing. I got this big deal done, and oh my gosh, I was able to do it. Let me go find the next big deal. Let me go find the next big thing. That's not a lot of us. A lot of us are just trying not to have our bad days to stay in this range. And when you're chasing something, your bad, ain't no telling, because again, the ceiling, there's no limitation to the ceiling, but also there's no limitation to that floor. And that's the fear, that bad day, those bad things that happen. That's the fear of the unknown. You don't know how far that fall is going to happen, but you also don't know how high that climb is going to go. You don't know how high your highest heights can be. Your highest heights can be way bigger than you've ever thought about, but that fall can be way deeper than you ever thought. And so when most people weigh the two, that fall isn't worth those heights. You know what I'm saying? Those heights are a beautiful thing, but that fall, that's a scary, scary thing. And that's why it's so easy to get caught up in our comfort zones, is because we don't want that fall. You know, and that's why it's so hard to step out in faith, because you can't see anything. You just got to trust it. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. And I hope that I can get to that place to where I can do it without even second guessing it, without even thinking about it. It's like, no, I'm trusting this. I don't know where it's going. I don't know where it's going. I don't know where it's taking me. I don't know the end goal. I don't know anything. All I can say is I don't know, but I'm taking this step and I'm moving in this direction. I feel like a pull. I feel a pull. I feel something calling me in this direction. I'm going in that direction. And, you know, and that's a place that I want to get to, because I feel like that's a beautiful place to be in. But it takes time, man. And don't feel bad if you're not there. Don't feel bad if you realize you've been caught up in the comfort zone, or you've been caught up in allowing your fear to control you. Man, it's life. We're human. It's a part of it. Give yourself grace. Understand that, you know, it's never too late to turn things around. So once you catch yourself, once you realize it, now it's time to start doing the work to change it. But don't feel bad about being human. Don't feel bad about being caught up in something that happens to the best of us. You know what I'm saying? It's a part of it's just a part of life. But once you catch it, now you got to start doing the work to get out that comfort zone. Now you got to start doing the work to get out of that mental mindset that's holding you back. Now you got to do the work to let go of that fear that's weighing you down, you know, that anchor that's holding you back, that's keeping you stuck in place. And it's not going to be easy, but it can be done. But that's it for today's episode. I want to thank everybody for listening on whatever podcast platforms y'all are listening on. I really do appreciate the love that y'all have been giving me. And then the same to everybody on YouTube, I want to thank y'all. Please continue to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I appreciate all the love I've been getting on, you know, from both sides. And y'all already know, until the next time we meet, y'all stay blessed.